Good morning, everyone. The time now is 11:21. I'm Storm Team 10 meteorologist Christina Ernie, and we now have a tornado warning, and this is in the areas of Acushnet heading through Mattapoisett. This is a very dangerous situation, and this is going to continue to track northeast. If you are in this area, I cannot stress enough how much you need to stay indoors. You need to get to the most interior part of your house, and you need to stay away from windows, doors, stay off the roads. You can see this front that we've been tracking for you basically all morning long. It has intensified, and when we see these reds and greens come together like this is just north of 195 where we are seeing this rotation. So there has been no tornado actually seen because there's so much rain wrapping around this storm system. It is a radar indicated tornado, meaning we're seeing that rotation at the upper levels of the atmosphere. If I zoom out a bit, you can see this is just north of Mattapoisett where the green and the red comes together. And when we see these brighter colors, that means we do have that possibility of rotation in the atmosphere. East Fairhaven into Mattapoisett points north is where we're seeing this rotation. I'm going to highlight it here with my radar, with my little tool here. As you can see, in this general vicinity is where we are dealing with that chance of not only severe thunderstorms, but also a radar indicated tornado. This is located near Marion and Mattapoisett, so if you know anyone in these areas, they do need to take shelter as soon as possible. This follows the severe thunderstorm warning or series of warnings that we've been tracking all morning as this begins to work through. If I put my radar on pause here and zoom through to what we are seeing in that red box, that tornado warning, we can actually see this kind of hook developing called a hook echo. And when we see that, it's just north of Mattapoisett, north rather of that 195 corridor, that indicates incredibly high winds and also that possibility of some rotating storms. Again, you might not be able to see it if you were in this area because there is so much low visibility from the heavy rain that is coming down. However, it is still likely there, so that's why you need to take shelter because you may not be able to see it. This is heading from 195 into the Rochester and Marion areas. It's kind of where you see this little inlet. I'm going to put on a storm tracker here for you. This is where the possible tornado would be tracking this way along that 195 corridor. Winds are very high in this area. I'm going to go back to our velocity tracker here, which tells us how fast the winds are going. And again, when we see the greens and the reds coming together, that is winds going into and out of our radar site. And we can see that that is just heading towards that 195 corridor again. So in this area, torrential rain, you might not be able to see a radar or rotation, a radar indicated tornado in this area, but there is that possibility here. So you need to stay safe and get away from any windows, doors, and make sure that you are staying off the road since this is approaching 195 in between Mattapoisett and Marion. We're going to go back to my reflectivity here where you can see the storm. It's on its way out for sure. It's already passed through New Bedford and it's heading into Buzzards Bay as well. We came on air just about 15 minutes ago to warn you of that possibility of a water spout, which is basically a tornado over water. And now we're seeing it, of course, closer to land on that 195 corridor. Torrential rainfall right now along 195 heading up towards Wareham and 495 corridor and all the way through Buzzards Bay heading into the Mashpee, Sandwich, and Barnstable areas as well. Frequent thunder and lightning with this, but again, that biggest concern is going to be that tornado warning. I'm going to call in meteorologist Anthony Macari in a moment because the laptop battery has just gone kaput. He's going to help me with some storm damage here. In the meantime, I'm going to step off camera and I'm going to go back to that storm relative velocity, which shows us where that tornado or the possibility of some rotation would be. And it's in this general vicinity here, crossing over or near that 195 corridor from Mattapoisett heading into the Marion areas. We are talking about the potential for low visibility too, and I want to take a live look at our Skycam network. This is pointed generally in the direction of where that would be. Since New Bedford is mainly drying out and clearing out, that front is positioned right where that camera is pointed out in the distance by East Fairhaven and also heading out towards the Mattapoisett and Marion areas. As you can see, the rain has wrapped up here in New Bedford. There could be some isolated areas of flooding. It's also another concern for us since we still have this flood warning in effect in some areas. Going to go back to this tornado warning here for anyone who's just beginning to tune in for us. We do have the potential for a tornado in this vicinity along that 195 corridor, and this is threatening areas like Bristol County heading into Plymouth County and in towards the Cape. Now let's check in with meteorologist Anthony Macari to see what you have going on.
Yeah, Christina, it's been a busy morning for you. As mentioned, I just want to start off right away with the storm relative velocity. As you've been mentioning, a tornado warning is in effect through 11:45, and this is a cell that National Weather Service and us here at Storm Team 10 have been watching very closely, and there is a strong possibility a tornado is on the ground. And here you see these colors very close together. That's no longer broad rotation, that is tight rotation. When you see the reds away from the radar and the green towards coming together, this cell moving from Mattapoisett into Marion, at the moment likely crossing over 195. So this is the time right now, if you're in this area, if you have relatives in this area, make sure you're taking shelter in the lowest portion of your home, away from windows if at all possible, as we go throughout the next 20 to 25 minutes. Again, this is tracking off toward the east, northeast at the moment, so turn up the volume on your TV. If you're in that area, head to the lowest level of your home if at all possible. Of course, the radar has been showing and the scans continue to come in showing this rotation, which is why the National Weather Service has put it into effect. Now, I do think as we go throughout time, a lot of this activity will begin to push off to the east, so we are getting closer to some improvement. It's just unfortunately we are not quite there just yet. And this broad rotation will continue to make its way off toward the east as we go throughout time. But again, it's going to take another 20 to 25 minutes until we continue to see that happen. So again, the radar indicated scans here, that storm relative velocity showing the rotation moving along and toward I-195 at the moment into the Marion area. Now I'm going to step off here so I can show you the radar scans as well, which are indicating some torrential rain out of this. In fact, we have some reports that are showing some rainfall amounts are actually over 3 inches out of this system. So it has been producing torrential rain as we've gone throughout the morning, and this is certainly not changed just yet. So let me pull up the reflectivity scans here so you can see the heavier rain that is coming in with this over the last 2 hours. Certainly has been torrential, and that is exactly why, in combination with, of course, what we're seeing, the velocity scans. I'm going to show a couple of other little things here so we can potentially pick out. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing here, this is correlation coefficient, so it's looking at dissimilar levels in the atmosphere. When you see some of these brighter oranges and greens, that could be an indication of a debris ball, unfortunately. See if we see it on another scan here. Yeah, so that's exactly why, of course, we are very concerned about this cell. Again, making its way from Mattapoisett into Marion along 195 and continuing to track off to the east, eventually toward the southern parts of Wareham and northern parts of Buzzards Bay, and likely to continue to move off toward the east. So this cell, very damaging situation here, very scary situation. So if you are in the path of this storm, you certainly do want to be taking shelter here. So I'm going to go back over to the radar at the moment so we can see exactly where this cell has been going and is continuing to go. I'll put this into motion here over the last 1 hour or so. Continuing again to move east, so it's out of the New Bedford area, but still torrential rain from portions of Buzzard Bay right into southern parts of Plymouth County. Again, if you're in the Marion, Mattapoisett area, you need to be in a shelter in the lowest portion of your home at the moment as this cell continues to move on through. I'll put this back into motion right here.
And hey, Anthony, I can join you. My laptop is coming back on. We have that tornado warning. And what we are seeing right now is right along that 195 corridor, that broad area of rotation. If we head back to the max one for our producers, you can see that this is our storm relative velocity, which is winds going in and out of that radar. And we do have some tight rotation in the area right along that 195 corridor. Not only are we seeing heavy rain, but you might actually not be able to see any rotation because of how torrentially that rain is coming down. But 195 between Rochester, Marion, and Mattapoisett, and now heading into the Wareham area, you need to stay off of the roads. We can see that tight couplet here, which indicates that wind that is not only very high, upwards of 60 miles per hour, but we also have that potential for a tornado that could be on the ground heading up towards the Wareham area. It is tracking generally up towards Wareham. I'm going to put on the storm tracker here, arriving potentially in the next 5 minutes. So again, you need to take shelter if you are in these areas. We have that tornado warning through 11:45, and we can see it clearly on our radar imagery here that is that possibility. I'm also just getting word right now that even though we are still seeing some that relative velocity and that tightening couplet, It is weakening a little bit, and for that reason, it appears that the National Weather Service has canceled our tornado warning. I'm going to double check just to make sure that we are all in the clear here. However, that does not mean that we are completely in the clear. It looks like we still have that tornado warning up for right now along that 195 corridor. But it is important to note you need to stay off the roads along 195 heading into the Marion to Mattapoisett areas. Just want to double check that we are.
Christina, it still is in effect. They canceled it for Bristol County, Massachusetts, so good there, but in effect through 11:35 for eastern Massachusetts.
Okay, so it's beginning to slide east, and it's now heading up towards Briarwood Beach into the Wareham area along, again, that 195 corridor. Winds in these areas are getting quite high. Of course, we can't see the entire picture and how much of those winds are actually reaching the surface. It does look like winds are upwards of 25, 30 miles per hour, but that's for everyone. Right in the center of the action where there is that potential for a tornado on the ground, those winds are much, much higher with the potential to do some damage. It's why you need to get into the interiormost part of your house because flying debris is an issue right now, like Anthony mentioned just a few moments ago. We're going to take another live look from our New Bedford camera for right now where you can see the storms off in the distance, although that storm is beginning to track its way further east. Just loading up some graphics here. That tornado warning still in effect as it moves east, heading into Plymouth County as we speak. And although it's not in the tornado warning box, we still have incredibly heavy and steady rain in the North Falmouth to Falmouth areas, heading into Mashpee and into Barnstable as well. We're talking about frequent thunder and lightning, but it's the area that we are most concerned about. It's just around the Buzzards Bay area and into Wareham where we can see those lightning strikes, quite numerous in this area. And we'll go back to that velocity tracker, which is really what helps meteorologists find or identify a tornado on a radar scan. Now, this is our latest storm relative velocity scan that just updated. It is weakening ever so slightly, but we still have the red and the green coming together with bright colors. That basically indicates to us that potential for a tornado generally in the 195 area. We see it between Marion and Wareham. I'm going to zoom in here for you. And we can see that that is most definitely a possibility. If you are in this area, you need to be taking shelter. If you know someone who is working in this area as well, they also need to take shelter. And I believe meteorologist Anthony McCarry is going to join us just now with some other tips for staying safe in this tornado warning. Anthony?
Yeah, Christina, for sure. If you are in the path of this cell like you were mentioning, and anyone you know, any relatives, you want to get into the lowest portion of your home, away from any windows, if at all possible. You can see the tips here on your screen. If you have a basement available, certainly going to be the best spot to be, if not shelter under something sturdy. If you are in a mobile home, it is not a safe space to stay. You need to get to somewhere, a sturdier structure, a home nearby, or a sturdy building just in case. Now, as Christina has been telling you about, we still do have this tornado warning that is in place. Again, it's been extended, now continues into portions of Barnstable as well as Plymouth County through 11:45. No longer in effect for Bristol County, but of course, still concerns there. Now, the rotation, like Christina has been mentioning here, there's been maybe some encouraging signs. It is not as broad as it has been, but the bright, very bright green that we're seeing here, even if maybe the tornado has weakened, if it is in this specific spot, you can see how bright the green is on our velocity scan. So these are some strong wind gusts, likely at least over 50 miles per hour, if not associated with the tornado. But again, it is moving east of 195, southern portions of Wareham at the moment in East Marion, continuing to make its way toward Cape Cod. Of course, it's not there just yet. We'll show you the latest radar scan. Anywhere within this yellow is still a severe thunderstorm warning, and that red box we're drawing out here is the tornado warning. And right in here, where you've got that little hook into the radar, is where the tornado would be positioned at the moment. So again, southern portions of Wareham moving off toward the east need to be in a sturdy portion of your home. Frequent lightning associated with this as well, not necessarily right with the tornado, but what, of course, would make it difficult to even spot in a situation like this is the fact that we are seeing heavy rain associated with it. It could be rain wrapped and therefore not necessarily visible. In fact, from New Bedford looking east, we actually have some sunlight that has been popping out in other portions of southern New England. Again, I do anticipate some improvement as we head into this afternoon with those temperatures starting to warm up, but we're certainly not there just yet. So just to refresh where we're seeing at the moment, this is the latest velocity scan showing the winds coming to and from our Taunton radar site. When you see the red and the green very close together, this is where the tornado would be positioned. It started initially in Mattapoisett, moved toward Marion, and now into Wareham, continuing to work its way eastward. eventually could be approaching the Bourne area. So right along the start of Cape Cod and into Plymouth County is where we are tracking this at the moment. So if you have relatives that are in the area, if you're here yourself, that's why you want to head into the lowest portion of your home right now. Crank up the volume of the TV, have a way to get some of the weather alerts on your phone so you can keep up and, of course, continue to stream us online, and we'll continue to give you this coverage as this storm is moving through. It's not just, of course, the tornadic activity, it's also the potential for some torrential rain. We've seen some areas pick up between 1 to 3 inches of rain out of this cell, and this warning is expected to continue at this point for, again, another about 8 minutes, but it's possible. We've seen it extended already. That certainly still could happen here. So here is just a look at those tips. Again, basement, inside area, away from windows if at all possible, lowest floor of your home. This tornado warning is in effect through 11:45 in the morning, but it has been extended multiple times already. And of course, we are seeing this rotation still present here, but again, it is still not as broad as we would like to see. That's why this tornado warning is still in effect. So we're continuing to see it. Christina, have you potentially heard of any damage reports at this point?
Anthony, no, I have not heard any damage reports yet, but this is a difficult situation like we've been mentioning because there is so much torrential rain. I mean, like you said, 1 to 3 inches worth of rainfall in just a short amount of time. It's very difficult. I've been showing some live cameras even within the past hour, and you can barely see anything out there because of how heavy to torrential this rain has been, so that makes it very difficult to see anything. We are continuing on with a severe thunderstorm warning into Barnstable County, Dukes County, and Plymouth County, Massachusetts, although we still do have this potential for a tornado warning in the Wareham areas where those reds and greens come together. That's from Wareham and Marion, south of Wareham as well, and this is going to continue to track east-northeast, so it could get close to areas like Onset into Bourne, although we may start to see that fizzle out a little bit. We are still seeing some rotation, though, around Wewiantic and into Wareham, Massachusetts as well, and it's now actually approaching that 495 corridor. So again, more of a weak rotation. It is still there. We still have that tornado warning in place, and again, we still have that in place for about 6 more minutes. I'm gonna bring that up for you right here. Also, we are getting some damage reported. I'm going to be bringing you guys some of that information. Actually, meteorologist Anthony McCarry will be checking in on that for us. Still along that 495 intersection where we could be seeing that rotation. One other thing I want to show you, as Anthony was talking, I was taking a closer look at our velocity scanner, which helps us identify some areas of rotation, and I'm still keeping a close eye on the Falmouth area as well, as we do see some very, very broad rotation. Of course, the best rotation that we're seeing right now is up towards the Wareham area. Yes, the latest scan now a little bit lighter for us, so we may start to see this expire shortly. We are still seeing inward and outward winds of around 40 miles per hour now moving into Wareham and South Wareham as well. However, this is continuing to weaken. I'm keeping a close eye on whether or not this will be expiring. But again, if you were in this area, Wareham south towards the coastline, out towards Onset, and now moving into the Route 25 and 495 corridor, like if you're heading out towards the Cape, for instance, you need to get off the roads. You won't be able to, again, likely see any tornadic activity because of how cloudy it is and how torrentially that rain is coming down with some thunder and lightning. So just be aware that we have that possibility of roads like 25 and 495 being impacted here. We're continuing to track this in the Wareham area. I'll zoom in here for you, but again, this is now sliding further northeast into East Wareham. Definitely starting to see some improvements here. Still very, very gusty winds. I wouldn't be surprised actually if we're starting to see some power outages. If some of my producers wanted to just take a quick check and let me know in my ear if we're hearing of any power outages in the Wareham area. However, still a very dangerous situation with this warning in place. It's that red box that you see here on the screen, which is right along 495 and 195. All this has slid off towards the Wareham area. Still torrential bands of rain. And that severe thunderstorm warning I just mentioned is now extended out towards Falmouth and through the Cape. And this is for that frequent thunder and lightning and the potential for some flooding because of the heavy to torrential rain that this entire system has been producing. This actually encompasses all of the outer Cape. I'm going to query this box We're starting to get some damage reports rolling in from Mattapoisett as well, so we'll take a closer look at that in just a moment. We're going to take a close look at this severe thunderstorm warning. It's for Barnstable County, Dukes County, and Plymouth County out towards the Cape. This is a severe thunderstorm warning, so that compares to our tornado warning, which is shorter, likely to get expired in the next few moments. So we're going to be sticking with you until we see that expire, because we are still dealing with an area of rotation. Definitely seeing some good signs of improvement, but again, we are hearing of damage reports, and even though I keep repeating that this is weakening a little bit, you still need to stay in the most interior part of your house, under something stable, in the basement if you can, away from windows and doors. Flying debris is an issue with this, even though, again, we are seeing some signs of improvements. We did earlier see some debris on some of our on our radar imagery that Anthony was showing us. So that means some items on the ground, whether it be debris from trees or even patio furniture being lofted in the air. Again, seeing some improvements around the Wareham area heading east. And we are definitely seeing that now move into that Route 25 corridor heading into East Wareham. Very busy roadway, especially if you're heading out towards the Cape or from the Cape. 195, for the most part, looks like some of that broad rotation has come to an end. Meteorologist Anthony McCarry, gonna pop in here. What do you have for us?
Yeah, Christina, as you had mentioned, the one thing I have not seen any pictures yet, but we are getting reports of that potential damage that had happened in the Mattapoisett area when this tornado warning cell came through. Of course, we are still under that warning. It has not expired just yet, but look at the torrential rain that is still showing up on the radar in the areas you were just talking about. So Wareham right now, all of eastern Massachusetts, right along to the coastline into Cape Cod, seeing the torrential rain. But it is within this red box that we are still technically under this tornado warning for 2 more minutes. We'll certainly keep you posted as to whether it is extended. Have not heard word just yet.